Welcome back, comrades and friends. Episode 1 traced the battle phase of Thuda when the Naga Army struck the 14th Assam Rifles outpost at Thuda, also known as Phor, in the Pochury region. The siege reached its climax with the downing of the Indian Air Force, Dakota HJ 233, on the 26th of August, 1960. All 9 aircrew on board were captured alive by the Naga Army under the field command of Lieutenant Tachu. Hell was about to break loose on Naga villages. But in episode 2, we stepped away from the battlefield and moved into the political landscape from 1955 to 1960. We saw how the Naga National Council, under the leadership of A.Z. Fizo, continued to insist on full Naga sovereignty, while the Naga People's Convention negotiated statehood within the Indian Union, culminating in the 16-point agreement signed on the 26th of July 1960. This political and ideological crack became starkly clear almost immediately when the Naga Army struck the Thuda outpost just 12 days later. On people's homeland, torn between ancestral sovereignty and a statehood bargain, shattering the moral and political coherence of a nation in the making and driving the Naga people toward irreconcilable destinies. Today, we return briefly to Thuda, not to repeat the battle, but to weave together every vital detail now brought to light. A route running deeper than expected, planted months earlier on foreign soil and carried to a remote outpost above Phor village. Veteran accounts, including those of Inuti Azuzu Thur, former Kilonser, and Adjutant Captain J.P. Vikuja, as preserved by the Phoisha Area People's Organization and the Pochury community, tell us that the decision to confront Indian military encroachment was forged at the Dhaka meeting of January 1960, held in what was then East Pakistan. There, under the leadership of Angami Zapu Fizo, Naga national leaders, including General Kaito Sukai Sima, Commander-in-Chief of the Naga National Army, General Mobu Angami, Yoking, and Kodao Yantan of the Naga National Council, met to reaffirm the national stand on Naga sovereignty and to consider how to push back Indian forces then encamping deeper into Naga territory. That resolve was reinforced a few months later. In May 1960, the Eastern, Northern, Western, Southern, and Central commands of the Naga Army gathered for a war council at Washalo village, roughly 222 kilometers from Kohima. There, they decided that the 14th Assam Rifles post at Thuda must be attacked and removed, and that the responsibility would fall heavily on the Pochury area. From that moment, preparation hardened into action. As Indian troops pushed deeper into Pochury country and the 14th Assam Rifles entrenched themselves at Thuda, hundreds of Pochury youths were taken into the Naga Army. Witness accounts from Phor recall that nearly 80% of the village's male population was recruited and trained to fight for the cause of the Nagas. Many of them would never truly return home. Orders were issued by the federal government of Nagaland. By mid-August 1960, bridges linking the Thuda outpost had been stripped down. Rivers were swollen and in full spate, cutting off reinforcement routes. Naga contingents from several tribes, including Sangtams, Yimchungers, Semas, and the 4th Battalion from the Pochury region under Commander Thorupa, moved into position under the higher command of Lieutenant General Zuheto, Brigadier Nivuto, and Commander Zukia. Full battle fire officially opened at 5 in the morning on the 24th of August. For 4 days and nights from the 24th to the 27th, firing continued in heavy rain. On the second day, the 25th, Lance Nai Kaluram of the Assam Rifles was killed in action. In the same exchange, Sergeant Major Sutu of the Naga Army fell and a Naga fighter named Potoy was wounded. These are among the few clearly recorded battlefield casualties at Thuda. On the 26th of August, ammunition on both sides ran low. To resupply the besieged post, an Indian Air Force Dakota transport aircraft arrived overhead, dropping boxes of ammunition and stores. 10 boxes fell outside the perimeter within reach of Naga positions, briefly strengthening their defense, even as the aircraft strafed the slopes where Naga fighters shielded 4 villagers. Seeing the growing threat, Brigadier Nivuto ordered Lieutenant Tabanizu and Zehoto to bring the Dakota down. They opened targeted fire. Both engines of the aircraft were hit, forcing it to make an emergency landing on the Zatsu terrace fields of Miluri. Within the defensive perimeter led by Lieutenant Tachu, all 9 aircrew were taken into custody without serious physical injury, having been disoriented and incapacitated by the impact of the sudden crash landing. Among them were Captain Anand Singha, aged 31, Flight Officer Chandrasekhar Mishra, aged 23, Flight Officer R.E. Raphael, aged 24, Sergeant J.C. Chowdhury, aged 32, and 5 other members of the crew. The shootdown of HJ-233 was the first aircraft brought down by Naga forces in defense of their sovereignty, and it enraged the government of India under Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Jet fighters were soon dispatched into the Thuda sector. They strafed bunker lines, ridgelines, and approaches, and repeatedly bombed the slopes where the Naga Army had dug in around the 14th Assam Rifles post. Mortars and machine guns from the outpost joined in, and the hills above Phor shook under continuous bombardment. In the days that followed, the incident was raised in the Lok Sabha through a calling attention motion. Responding in Parliament, Defence Minister V.K. Krishna Menon acknowledged a renewed escalation of fighting in the remote Kohima district and confirmed that Indian Air Force transport aircraft had been tasked with supply missions to the besieged Thuda post. By the morning of the 27th of August, airstrikes had intensified. Ground forces began pressing outward from the post. Shells and rockets raked tree lines and village approaches. Elders from Phor approached Naga Army commanders and pleaded for a withdrawal, fearing that if the outpost did not fall quickly, their entire village would. After 13 days of siege, beginning with preparations and encirclement from the 14th of August and 3 days of intense battle from the 24th to the 27th, the Naga Army decided to withdraw from Thuda on the evening of the 27th of August, 1960. It was not a surrender, but a strategic breaking of contact under overwhelming air power and the counsel of village elders. Fighters slipped away along jungle paths known to them since childhood. At the same time, villagers from Phor and neighboring settlements fled into the forests. Mothers carried infants, fathers slung bags of rice and a few clothes, families scattered into ravines and thickets as bombardment and ground sweeps spread fear across the region. On the other side of the lines, the captured Dakota crew were moved rapidly. First kept under the protection of Lieutenant Tachu, they were then handed over to the Pochury battalion and taken to the division headquarters of the federal government of Nagaland. From there, Adjutant Captain J.P. Vikuga escorted them eastwards to Nazukfu, also known as Sati Camp, near the Indo-Myanmar frontier, a remote stronghold of the Naga underground. Within weeks of their capture, even as much of the Pochury area continued to burn, arrangements were made involving the federal government of Nagaland and humanitarian agencies. 5 of the aircrew were handed over to the Indian Red Cross Society at Imphal without harm or mistreatment. The remaining crew members were detained as prisoners of war in camps such as Pangsha and Shera for nearly 22 months. They were eventually released on the 16th of May, 1962 and transferred via Burma back to India after prolonged negotiations and the intervention of bodies such as the Red Cross. At the same time, Naga emissaries such as Ambassador D. Moses and Foreign Affairs Officer Kahu Sema, who had taken considerable risks to escort these prisoners to Burma for their release, were arrested by Burmese authorities in 1962 and detained in Rangoon until late 1963. The story of the prisoners warrants a separate, dedicated episode. After their release, their testimonies about life in captivity under the Naga Army were well documented, including accounts of discipline and ethical conduct shown toward prisoners of war. These accounts were later recorded in detail by the renowned British journalist Gavin Young, who visited Sati camp and wrote extensively on the conditions of their detention. What followed for the villages around Thuda would, however, not be governed by international conventions. The conscience of the world did not stir as families bled and fled. No institution intervened while homes burned. No law stood between the people and terror. Justice was nowhere to be found. It did not stand with them in the jungle, it did not answer their pleas, and it did not record their pain. As the Naga Army withdrew from Thuda, ground operations intensified. Aircraft continued to circle the region, searching for undergrounds and reconnoitering the area where the Dakota had fallen. The roar of engines and the crack of artillery turned every hour into a continuous state of terror across Pochury land. The path that had begun at Dhaka, passed through Washilo and Thuda, was now bending toward widespread reprisals. From Phor to Yisi and surrounding villages, and finally to Matikru, a Pochury village below Kanjang, the violence moved downhill. It was there that the most infamous atrocity of this campaign would take place on the 6th of September 1960. Friends, this episode brings the Battle of Thuda to its end. The siege, the downing of the Dakota, the capture of its 9-member crew, the airstrikes, the withdrawal, the battle ended at Thuda. What followed, however, would be borne by the villages. In the next episode, we move beyond Thuda into the days that followed the 27th of August, 1960. We will trace how civilians became deliberate targets, how entire villages like Phor, Matikru, and others were devastated, and how this path led to what the Pochury people remember as Black Day on the 6th of September, 1960. That episode is still in preparation. It is being built carefully from records, testimony, and survivor accounts, for memory and for truth, not for spectacle. The fighting at Thuda had ended. The guns had fallen silent. On paper, the battlefield casualties were few and clearly recorded. So ask yourself this: if the war at Thuda was already decided, why did the greatest suffering begin only after the battle was over? When the guns fall silent, but anger and fear remain unchecked, who stands exposed? Share your thoughts in the comments. History survives only when it is questioned, remembered, and told truthfully. Thank you for watching and for remembering. Until the next episode, Kuknalim.